I was on a video call with my boyfriend when a man showed up on his end and called him husband. I exploded. I couldn't lose. I pulled a passerby dressed in a suit and tie to pretend to be my new boyfriend. Unexpectedly, the passerby was actually in the middle of a video interview. And it was made public. In the drizzling rain, I was walking along the street while having a video call with my boyfriend who I had been in love with for 3 years. We were in different countries. My family and friends all advised me that long-distance relationships across countries were unreliable, but I trusted him. We had been in love since college until now. Suddenly, a shirtless man appeared on the other end of the video call. He hugged my boyfriend and said coquettishly, "Husband, why didn't you wake me up when you woke up? What are you doing? Husband?" My worldviews were shattered. It was like a bomb exploded in my head. I ranted at my boyfriend, asking him to explain. I don't know if God also heard this tragic story, but the rain started pouring down harder. I didn't have an umbrella, so I rushed under the eaves of a coffee shop by the street to take shelter from the rain. Unexpectedly, he simply decided to come clean and told me that he had been with this man for a long time and that they were true love. Damn it. What a scumbag. He was really pushing it too far. A fit of nameless anger rushed straight to my head. I couldn't lose. I heard a man's voice beside me. I turned around and saw an elite man who was dressed in a suit and tie, with a cool and handsome temperament. I walked up to him, leaned on his shoulder, and said to the person on the other end of the video, "Don't think you're the only one who can do this. I'll also come clean. This is my fiancé. He's taller, handsomer, richer, and better than you." After saying that, I let out a long sigh and hung up the video call. The man beside me was stunned. He looked at me in astonishment. I made an apologetic gesture and was about to rush into the rain to leave, but he grabbed me. He said to the person on the other end of the phone, "I need to deal with something first." Then he hung up. I smiled awkwardly and explained, "Sorry, I borrowed you for a moment." His eyes were cold. "Do you know that I was just in the middle of a video interview? Now it's equivalent to publicly announcing that I have a fiancé." Huh? Was it that serious? Their company was on the top floor of the tall building beside us. He pulled me back and then pulled in another man who was also dressed in a suit and tie and had a gentle and refined look. They explained what had happened. I sat there at a loss. He smiled and said, "Adrian, you're really something. You managed to bring back a fiancé just while buying a coffee." Adrian crossed his arms and stared at me with sharp eyes. The rain just wouldn't stop, and the reporters were pressing hard, so we started the video interview. "Who would have thought that someone like you would pop up out of nowhere? It's so absurd." Merlin continued, "I actually think it's a good thing. Before, because you were too indifferent to worldly desires, there were rumors outside that you were into men. This is not good for your positive image, and our competitors were also using this aspect in public opinion to play tricks. Now that you have a fiancé, those rumors will collapse on their own." Adrian nodded in agreement. "At least before this big project is completed, nothing can go wrong. The competing agencies are looking for our weaknesses. Let's just keep the fiancé thing for now. I'll officially announce it to the public." Watching them discuss, it seemed that I was like a piece of pork on the chopping board, and they were discussing how much to sell it for. I interrupted them, "Hey, two handsome guys, I'm still here. I don't agree." Adrian walked up to me. He was quite tall and looked down at me from above. "If you don't agree, I'll sue you for defamation. The losses suffered by the company due to damage to my reputation will all be compensated by you. The compensation amount isn't much, just around several $100,000 to over $1 million. Damien looked at me angrily. "You can take them to the dry cleaner. Order takeout when you want to eat. I'm so busy every day that I don't have time to be, but if you cooperate, I won't treat you unfairly. For a period of 3 months, the remuneration will be $100,000. Wow, that was an attractive figure. He looked down at me, with his sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and his 3-dimensional facial features. He was really good-looking. He was also quite attractive. On the spot, he drafted an agreement. He looked me up and down at my outfit and handed me a bank card, we have to play the part thoroughly. Now your image is that of my fiancé. Take this card and buy some clothes, shoes, and bags. And so, I walked away in a daze, holding an agreement and a bank card. What was all this about? I broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years for no reason and seamlessly got a fiancé. To avoid reporters secretly taking pictures of me, Adrian suggested that I work at his company temporarily, which would also make it convenient for us to communicate and cooperate whenever we needed to make an appearance. In the company, except for Merlin who knew the truth, everyone else only knew that I was his fiancé and often looked at us with the look of shipping us. Adrian's parents learned about our engagement through the media and wanted to meet me. In the suburban villa, Adrian took me back to his home. In the car, he briefly introduced his family's situation. He had lived at school since he was a child. Later, his parents sent him to study abroad for college despite his resistance. After returning to China, he started his own business, which his parents opposed. They wanted to arrange for him to take over the family business, and the conflict grew deeper. He hadn't been close to them since he was a child, and they became even more estranged when he grew up. Now he didn't live at home and seldom came back. He reminded me that this might be a tough battle. I encouraged him, saying that for the success of our agreement, we should cheer up together. As soon as I walked to the door, his father's majestic voice came from inside, "Adrian, come in alone. The rest of you, please wait outside." Adrian gritted his teeth and was about to lose his temper. I pinched his hand and said, "Forget it. Remember the purpose of our visit today." He went in, and I stood alone outside the door. The autumn wind was blowing, making my skirt flutter. The gardeners and cleaners in the villa all cast their eyes on me. I sniffled and heard quarreling voices inside. "Adrian, what are you doing? A woman like that doesn't deserve to enter our family at all. Do you know what her family is like? Have you ever found out clearly? What's her educational background? She dropped out of school. What's her family background? How can she help you in the future? A decorative vase? She's not even worthy of that. What do you see in her?" In the scoldings one after another, my flaws were enumerated. I felt as if I had gone back to my childhood in the adopted family. I huddled in the corner, hidden in the darkness, listening to my adoptive parents quarreling about me. What's the use of her? What can she bring to this family? With her lowly look she still makes our precious son angry all day long. At that time, I, as a little girl, raised my face and looked out of the window. It was getting dark, darker and darker, and my heart gradually sank into the darkness. A middle-aged woman with long wavy hair walked towards me gracefully after opening the door. There wasn't a trace of age on her face. She should be Adrian's mother. She crossed her arms and stood on the steps, looking down at me condescendingly, as if looking down at an ant. She handed me a cup of tea and said contemptuously with a roll of her eyes, "Hold the tea and kneel here." She had an elegant demeanor, but why didn't she do anything decent? I didn't take it. I raised my eyes to look at her, with sharp eyes, and said, "Why should I? I used to hear that it wasn't easy to marry into a wealthy family and thought it was just something that happened in dramas, but it turns out that such things exist both in real life and in plays." She pulled out a sarcastic smile, with a fierce look in her eyes. She pinched my forehead with her index finger and said word by word, "Why? Just because you're standing here you don't deserve it at all. Fine." I smiled slightly, took the teacup, raised the corners of my eyes slightly, and then smashed the cup hard in front of her. The ceramic shattered all over the floor. The clear and loud sound of breaking attracted everyone's attention. The gardeners and cleaners all turned their eyes this way. Adrian and his father ran out from inside. Unexpectedly, his mother, who was the villain, made false accusations first and shouted, "Get out of here." Adrian took my hand to check, "Are you hurt?" I shook my head. She asked me to hold the tea and kneel down. I kneel to heaven and earth, to the gods and to my parents. Since you haven't given me any respect, why should I kneel to you? Adrian said angrily, "Mom and Dad, she's the one I brought back. She's the person I've chosen, the one I want to spend my life with. Whether you accept it or not, I've made up my mind about her." As he said that, He took my hand and intertwined our fingers. In your eyes there's only profit. What do I want from her? I don't want anything from her. I like her, I love her, I want to protect her, and I want to be with her for the rest of my life. I started my own business and you opposed it. My ex-girlfriend and you opposed her. Now you still oppose her. Do you have to oppose all the decisions in my life? This is my life, not yours. At this time, a black luxury car drove up outside the gate. Two old men and women with gray hair got out of the car and walked over with their hands behind their backs and big smiles on their faces. Oh, it's so lively here. Adrian went up to greet them, Grandpa, Grandma. I also greeted them along with him. The energetic old man smiled all over his face. Come on, come in. Let me hear what you're quarreling about. Seeing me standing at the door, the old woman came over and pulled me to go in together. My girl, you're so good looking. On the sofa, after listening to our story, Grandpa Theodore laughed. You two also didn't care about our opposition back then and insisted on being together. How can you now have the nerve to oppose your son? The two elders scolded Adrian's parents again and even asked them to apologize to me. I quickly waved my hand. There's no need for an apology. We're the younger generation after all. Adrian's parents couldn't save face but still gave a shallow apology. Grandpa Theodore continued, you stubborn-headed people, don't you think about it? Adrian is almost 30 years old and has never brought a girlfriend home before. You should cherish it. Do you really want to see him stay single forever? Grandma Agnes also chimed in. Only then did this meeting with the parents end smoothly. On the way back, I asked him, did you arrange for Grandpa and Grandma to come? He nodded. I thought we couldn't handle it, so I invited them in advance. But you really impressed me. There hasn't been any girl who was so tough in front of my parents. Even I used to avoid conflicts. I like the way you are. We smiled at each other. After this commotion, we didn't have dinner, so he invited me to have a meal. I was already hungry and ate with great relish. Suddenly, he said, there are reporters secretly taking pictures outside. Feed me. I happened to be biting a shrimp at that time, so I pouted and turned to him. He was amused and blushed. He tapped my head. Silly girl, I meant you should feed me with your hand. I smiled awkwardly, having misunderstood. Then I picked up a shrimp and fed it to him. He turned his head away, a ripple of a smile spreading across his face, and there was also a suspicious blush on his face. Adrian was invited by the TV station to do an interview program and specially invited me to participate together. The female host Tiffany was extremely beautiful. She familiarly extended her hand to him but didn't say hello. My woman's intuition told me that their relationship was more than just ordinary friends. Before the program started, the assistant rehearsed the questions in the script with us first. During the formal interview, many of the questions Tiffany asked were outside the script. For example, Miss Celine is an orphan. What was your childhood like? I raised my eyebrows, looked at the person opposite me and smiled politely, then answered casually, yes, I'm an orphan. I was adopted by my current parents. Adrian turned to look at me a bit unexpectedly. He didn't expect that I had such an experience. The host curled her lips into a slight smile. Before this you were adopted by another family and then abandoned. What was the reason? I couldn't help clenching Adrian's hand. He sensed that I didn't want to answer this question and said, sorry, today's main focus is on interviewing me. Please don't ask irrelevant questions. Finally, the interview ended. After I went to the bathroom and passed by the dressing room, I heard a coquettish voice coming from inside. Adrian, we were in love for 6 years. I gave you my heart and soul, but I couldn't be with you in the end. Her family background is ordinary and her appearance is ordinary. In what way is she better than me? What a big piece of gossip. An ex-girlfriend? No wonder they seemed so familiar. I pricked up my ears, wanting to hear what was said next, but I only heard Adrian say calmly, Tiffany, why were the questions you just asked different from the script? Why did you deliberately make things difficult for her? Because I don't like the look of her. Because she's not worthy of you. Adrian snorted coldly. I remind you that it was you who had an affair with other men first. I've still maintained our dignity until now, also because of our years of relationship. Even a person like Adrian could be cheated on? Where's the justice? Adrian, you also said that we had a relationship for years. I only have you in my heart. What I did with them was just flirting. But you didn't want to marry me even after 6 years. Then let me ask you, when did you start cheating? I didn't expose you and gave you chances again and again, but you just can't change your bad habits. It turned out that even he who was always so proud and high above others also had moments when he was brought down to the dust. There were too many people and it was too chaotic in the corridor. I didn't think it was appropriate to listen any longer, so I went to the elevator entrance to wait for him. When passing by, I saw a familiar figure, a maintenance worker in a blue work uniform with pitted skin on his face and a scar at the corner of his eye. My heart skipped a beat. It was him. He also saw me and pulled a contemptuous smile at the corner of his mouth. Celine, long time no see. Look at you now, looking all proper. The dusty memories flooded back all at once. When I was 8 years old I was adopted by his family. My adoptive parents had only him as their son, but he had a mental illness. I was beaten half to death by him on the very first day when I arrived at his home. He thought that his parents wanted me to replace him, so he held a grudge. His parents really loved him and indulged his behavior. I was always covered in bruises with new wounds adding to the old ones, and I had to do housework from morning till night. One day he beat me until I was bleeding from the head after getting drunk. I finally couldn't bear it and escaped. Later I met my current adoptive parents. Those were the darkest years of my life. He was the devil in that dark period, covering my whole sky like a dark cloud. He walked up to me, lifted my chin with his greasy hand. Haha, a girl changes a lot as she grows up. You've become even more beautiful. What are you standing there for? Call me brother. I looked around, calmly walked to the firefighting window, took out the fire extinguisher. I swung the fire extinguisher and smashed it hard at him again and again. He howled and dodged, cursing me with the most vicious words. People around were also screaming. Adrian heard the noise and ran out. He snatched the fire extinguisher from my hand. Celine, what's wrong with you? Seeing that more people were gathering around, that devil covered his wounds and ran away. Before leaving he gave me a fierce glare. Judging from the shape of his mouth it seemed that he was saying, just you wait. I took a deep breath, trembling slightly. Let's go. Let's go back. On the way back in the car my tears slowly began to flow down. More and more tears came until I was sobbing uncontrollably. Adrian gently held me in his arms. My tears soaked his suit. After crying I told him about that experience. He held me even tighter and patted my back to comfort me. It's all in the past. Don't worry. I won't let him get away with it. Tired from crying I felt sleepy. I felt Adrian quietly move closer and shift his shoulder towards me. I naturally leaned on his shoulder. He moved a bit closer again to make me lean more comfortably. When we arrived downstairs I was wondering whether to continue pretending to be asleep when I heard him whisper to the driver, asking the driver to get off work and that he would drive back by himself. The driver got out of the car. In the quiet compartment only the two of us were left. The pleasant smell of tea on him filled the air around us. I adjusted my position and put my head on his neck. I clearly felt the body next to mine become stiff. Suddenly there were a few barks. I took the opportunity to rub my eyes and pretend to be awake. Are we here? Then I'll leave. Suddenly he reached out and grabbed me. Celine, the past is the past. I'll protect you from now on. There was a smile in my eyes. At that moment I wanted to remind him that he seemed to have forgotten that we were only in a contractual relationship with a 3-month validity period. Adrian sent people to investigate that devil's maintenance job at the TV station, found the mistakes in his work and reported him. As a result the TV station fired him. A few days later I was having a meeting in the company when I received a call from the front desk saying that there was a courier that required me to sign for it in person. I went to the front desk. A person dressed as a courier with his hat pulled down very low handed me a box. While I was looking down to sign the courier receipt, the courier suddenly took out a dagger from somewhere and stabbed it directly at me. I exclaimed and dodged aside, but the dagger still scratched my arm. The 2 staff members at the front desk had never seen such a scene before. They exclaimed and ran inside to call for help. The courier looked up. It turned out to be that devilish brother of mine. He glared fiercely and gritted his teeth. You bitch. Not only did you not repay my kindness, but you also sent people to get me fired. I'll kill you today. I don't care if we both die together. He held the dagger and stabbed it towards my chest. In this critical moment a big hand pulled me away. Adrian kicked him hard in the abdomen. He covered his stomach and bent down in pain. Several male colleagues quickly came forward and pinned him to the ground. He raised his head with a fierce look in his eyes and roared, "You little bitch found someone to rely on. I said you were not simple back then, but my parents didn't believe me." I finally couldn't hold it back and told him, "Do you know that after your parents adopted me, they originally planned to abandon you? They said that you had a mental illness and could only live by sponging off others and would be a burden to the family. It was I who persuaded them to keep you." His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at me. He roared and rushed towards me, "Impossible. They are my biological parents. It has nothing to do with you. I really regret that I didn't beat you to death back then." I turned my head away and didn't look at him anymore. "Believe it or not, they are your parents anyway. I don't care." Just then the security guards came upstairs and dragged him away. So many years had passed but he was still the same as before. I smiled seeing that little girl who had been in the darkness back then had already walked out of the corner and into the sunlight. The security guards asked if we needed to call the police. Adrian said of course we should. His behavior was extremely bad and had already affected the personal safety of our employees. I took his hand and tried to dissuade him. "Forget it. Forgive others whenever you can." Adrian said sternly to him, "We are a law firm with a top-notch lawyer team. If you don't want to spend the rest of your life in prison, you'd better behave yourself and stay away from her. If you harass her again, I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison." After the security guards took him away, Adrian took me to his office and helped me clean the wound. The moment the disinfectant touched my skin, I hissed in pain, "Does it hurt?" Adrian bent down and gently blew on the wound. I looked up and met his clear eyes. "Adrian, thank you." He touched my head and said gently, "I told you that from now on, the boss will protect you and look after you." On the weekend, the team went on an outing to the suburbs. The air was fresh and the sun was shining brightly. I looked at others riding horses enviously. A male colleague rode by me on a horse, perhaps seeing the longing look in my eyes, he reached out his hand on the horse. "Do you want to learn? I can teach you." "Sure. Thank you." I beamed with joy, reached out my hand and was pulled onto the horse's back, sitting in front of him. It was my first time riding a horse, and I had a great time. I had a bright smile under the sun. Suddenly, the horse was pulled to a stop. Adrian, with an unfriendly look on his face, held the reins. "I'll teach you." The male colleague got off the horse sensibly. Adrian flipped onto the horse in one move. With a shout of a giddy up, the horse started running. Before that, we were just walking slowly. With this sudden speed, I was so scared that I closed my eyes tightly and grasped his arm. The wind whistled past my ears. Adrian leaned close to my ear and said, "Are you scared? Hold on tight and you won't fall off." In the warm sunlight, with the wind mixed with his hearty laughter, I turned my head with a smile. Our eyes met and it was like an electric spark. After riding for a while, there was a vast expanse of purple lavender fields in front of us. He tied the horse to a tree and led me to stroll in the sea of flowers. The fragrance of the flowers filled the air, making people forget the worldly affairs. Our colleagues thoughtfully arranged for us to stay in the same room, a king-sized bedroom. Adrian suggested that he would sleep on the sofa. However, after looking around, he couldn't find an extra quilt. There was only one quilt on the big bed in the whole room. I said, "Anyway, the bed is big. You can sleep on one side and I'll sleep on the other." After turning off the lights, in the quiet room, I could hear his breathing, which was a bit rapid and repressed. I don't know how long it had passed when I felt him slowly get up, as if he wanted to get something from the bedside table on my side. The moonlight shone in. He fumbled for a long time but didn't get it. Instead, I felt his gaze fall on my face. His hand gently stroked my cheek, touched the tip of my nose, and finally landed on my lips. In the silent space, I could hear the thumping of a heart, which came from Adrian's chest above me. Finally, he turned around. I also let out a long sigh of relief and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, I blinked my eyes and found that I was hugging Adrian, with one of my legs draped over him. Adrian's face was very close to mine. His long eyelashes covered his eyes. He had thick eyebrows and a straight nose. He was really good looking. I unconsciously ran my fingertips gently across his forehead, nose. Just then, he opened his eyes and looked at my movement that I didn't have time to withdraw, with a smile in his eyes. This guy, had he been awake for a long time? As if bewitched by his smile, I pulled down his collar and gave him a quick peck on the lips. Our eyes met, and in the exchange of glances, his eyes seemed to be filled with a deep pool of water, on the verge of overflowing. His eyes fell on my lips, and he slowly bent down. Our colleagues knocked on the door, calling us to have breakfast. We separated awkwardly. I was on a business trip in another city and there was a party in the evening. I went in wearing a very simple hoodie. The daughters of wealthy families at the party pointed at me and rolled their eyes at me. Adrian pulled me into the adjacent room and made a phone call. Before long, rows of clothes were pushed in. He asked me to choose whatever I liked. I tried on several pieces. When I changed into a short red dress, I noticed that Adrian's eyes suddenly lit up, shining like stars. "I'll take this one then." I took his arm and went back to the venue again. We were a perfect couple, chatting and laughing merrily. His cell phone rang. It was Merlin calling. He said urgently on the other end that Adrian's ex-girlfriend somehow found out about our contractual relationship and had already announced the news to the public. People around seemed to have already known about this and were whispering and discussing while looking at us. A leader of a cooperative enterprise walked up to us and said with a fake smile, "General Manager Adrian, sincerity is the prerequisite for cooperation, right?" Adrian nodded politely, naturally. "We'll handle the rumors properly. Don't worry." We both knew that this would not only affect the task of our business trip this time but also Adrian's image. He took my hand and walked back. However, we were blocked at the door by many reporters, who were constantly taking pictures with their cameras flashing. "General Manager Adrian, is the person you're holding the fake fiancé under the agreement? General Manager Adrian, are you really in a contractual relationship? General Manager Adrian, are you doing this to cover up the rumors about your unclear sexual orientation before?" We were surrounded by the crowd. Adrian held my hand, which was warm and firm. "Those are unfounded rumors. She's my real fiancée. Our wedding is coming soon. Everyone is welcome to attend the ceremony then," Adrian said in a loud and clear voice. But this led to even more fierce doubts from the crowd, with everyone shouting and arguing. "General Manager Adrian, it was Ms. Murong, your ex-girlfriend, who made this news public. What's your relationship with her? General Manager Adrian, I heard that you and Ms. Murong were forced to break up because of your families. Is there any possibility of getting back together?" A male reporter stepped forward and grabbed Adrian, not letting him go. "General Manager Adrian, please answer. What exactly is your relationship?" I stepped forward and pulled his hand away. "What's the relationship? Do you want me to show you?" I turned my head and kissed him, using my action to clarify our relationship. Everything around became quiet, except for the continuous flashing of the cameras. Adrian put his arm around my waist and led me through the crowd to avoid being separated by the surging flow of people. Back at the hotel, he had a video call with Merlin to discuss how to handle the public relations issue. I set up the playing cards one by one and then pushed them all down together, just like our dominoes. Since the first one fell when I met him, one after another had been falling at an uncontrollable speed. Even worse, he had announced that our wedding was coming soon. Seeing that our agreement was about to expire, Merlin suggested that we break up due to personality differences or extend the agreement and find a reason to break up after publicly announcing the wedding date. They were discussing heatedly. I could hear them clearly from the side anyway. The ending was breaking up. Adrian called his ex-girlfriend to reprimand her and asked her what on earth she wanted. she was crying pitifully on the other end with tears streaming down her face. She said that she had never forgotten him and still loved him, that I didn't deserve him, that she was doing all this for his own good, that I was with him just for money, and that he should see my true face clearly. Adrian hung up the phone impatiently. Celine, what's your opinion? I looked up from the playing cards and looked up at him. Do you still love her? He was stunned. Perhaps he didn't expect that I would ask this question. I learned from Merlin that he and his ex-girlfriend broke up because their families couldn't reach an agreement on interest issues, and the two families even became competitors in the market, so they went their separate ways. Adrian's momentary silence made me understand. I lowered my head and smiled faintly. It felt like there was a hole in my heart with the wind blowing through it. You can announce to the public that you were having a conflict with her and that you were acting with me just to make her angry. Now that you've made up with her, I'm just a temporary actress. Adrian frowned. Celine, what are you talking nonsense? What does this have to do with her? I took a deep breath and said angrily, isn't everything she's doing for you? You two still have feelings for each other. How could I be talking nonsense? I'll help you two get back together. I got up to leave, but he pushed me against the wall. Stop making trouble. I have nothing to do with her. Merlin tactfully said, you two talk first. And hung up the video call on his end. I pushed his hand away with broken tears in my eyes. I'm serious. The 3-month play is over. Let's end it. I walked unsteadily back to my room, locked myself in the bathroom, turned on the shower, and cried bitterly. I was angry with myself for being so useless. I had lost completely in this game where whoever fell in love first would lose. I was angry with myself for being just an actress and shouldn't have crossed the line and fallen in love with him. I opened all the wine in the room and huddled on the sofa in my pajamas, drinking one bottle after another. Just let me be willful tonight. I'll be okay tomorrow. When I was so drunk that I felt dizzy, there was a knock on the door. I stumbled to my feet to open the door. Adrian, with red eyes, was standing at the door. I got angry when I saw him and was about to close the door, but he pushed against it. He suddenly pushed the door hard. I was drunk and couldn't stand steadily. Fortunately, he quickly came over and hugged me. He frowned and scolded, Celine, how much have you drunk? I was crying with snot and tears all over my face. Adrian, I lost. He carried me to the sofa. What did you lose? I sobbed and said, I lost my own heart. It was clearly just a play, but I fell in love because of it. Adrian bent down, put his palm on the back of my head, and covered my mouth with his. My body was held tightly in his powerful embrace, and the unfinished words were drowned in the affectionate kiss. His kisses were like a storm with sparks flying. He put his arm around my waist and held my nape firmly. His continuous kisses reached my ear, making my whole body go weak. His lips lingered by my ear and he murmured, there's no one else, only you, Celine. My mind went blank and I forgot to think. He greedily took and explored every corner of me forcefully. At this moment, we both forgot everything around us. In the morning, I woke up in Adrian's arms. He held me tightly in his embrace. His open pajamas revealed the attractive lines of his muscles. I looked down along his chest muscles. A soft laugh sounded above my head. Have you seen enough? I covered my face. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed that I didn't dare to face anyone. After a while, I realized what was going on and glared at him. Why are you in my room? I came to discuss countermeasures with you. You were drunk. I sat up and looked at the table full of wine bottles, rubbed my aching temples, and remembered my indulgence last night. The scenes that came to my mind later were too embarrassing to look at. Sorry, I drank too much. He lay on his side, propping his head up with one hand, and smiled with an ambiguous meaning. You'll be responsible for me, right? I lifted the quilt to check my clothes. Fortunately, I was still neatly dressed. I helped you put on your clothes. My memory only stayed at the part where he kissed me. Everything after that was a blur. Suddenly, he flipped over and pinned me on the bed, restraining my struggling hands, and said seriously, Celine, the problem was solved last night. I was curious. How was it solved? His face got closer and closer. What's done is done. The pretend play has turned into reality. You have to be responsible for me. Adrian, you? He bent down and passionate kisses fell gently one after another, swallowing up the words that followed. The faint fragrance of tea on him enveloped me, and my heart was pounding so hard that I almost felt suffocated. After a long while, he finally let me go. Both of us were breathing rapidly, with flushed faces. I turned my head aside. I was drunk last night. Are you trying to deny it after having all the fun? His lips were by my ear. He took my earlobe between his lips and nibbled on it, stirring up waves of emotions inside me. Do you want me to help you recall it? I looked at him with teary eyes. Don't you still love her? He gave me a quick peck on the lips, pinched my cheek, and said, she and I are long in the past. From now on, there's only you. The sunlight shone through the gauze curtain and onto the bedsheet. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes. He bent down again and hot kisses fell. Merlin sent a message. After investigation, it turned out that his ex-girlfriend had been bribed by a rival company, which led to this farce. He immediately flew over, brought the evidence, and we held a press conference together to clarify the situation. After the press conference, people were leaving one after another. Suddenly, the song played in the venue. While everyone was surprised, the big curtain at the back changed into the sweet photos we had taken before. Adrian put on a white suit and walked out slowly from the back, holding a big bunch of red roses in his hands. He got down on one knee in front of me, opened the brocade box, and there was a big crescent-shaped diamond ring in sea blue. Celine, I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me? I nodded with tears in my eyes. He put the diamond ring on my finger. The diamond shone with a blue light. What shone even brighter than this light was Adrian's brilliant smile. The reporters became the witnesses of this proposal, and the reports became even more sensational. As soon as we returned to the company, Adrian's parents were waiting for us. They sat in the office with dark faces and unanimously expressed their view that they didn't agree to our marriage. Adrian took my hand and showed them the big shiny diamond ring. Mom and Dad, congratulations. Celine is pregnant. You're going to be grandparents. Adrian's parents instantly jumped up from their chairs. What? I turned my head and looked at him in surprise. I'm pregnant? When did that happen? He squeezed my hand and whispered in my ear, I know my parents. Just listen to me. Adrian's mother was so emotional that she lashed out at me. You little vixen. You think you can enter our family just because you're having a baby. It's a fantasy. I'm telling you clearly that it's impossible. Adrian smiled and shook his head. Mom, don't say that you won't let her enter our family. I won't even enter our family again. We'll live outside, and you don't have to come to our wedding either. Adrian's parents were so angry that they were fuming with rage. That won't do. The descendants of the Adrian family. Adrian said calmly, think it over. Either you have an additional grandchild and enjoy a happy family life with 3 generations living together, or you don't recognize me as your son anymore. Adrian's father pulled Adrian's mother aside and whispered to each other. After the discussion, they left in a huff. Finally, only the 2 of us were left in the office. I asked worriedly, where's the baby? Did you conjure one up? Adrian pulled me into his arms at once. Are you silly? We'll make one. With hard work, it'll come along soon. Before he finished speaking, he kissed me. I laughed at him. You rascal. We held hands and went to buy coffee downstairs in the company at the coffee shop where we first met. A cute female waitress greeted us enthusiastically. Celine. I said that I had met an acquaintance and asked him to go upstairs first. Then I walked over with a smile. Leo, has the shop been busy recently? I used to work part-time in this coffee shop. While making coffee, she smiled and said, it's okay. I think that guy just now seemed to come to the shop often before. You even said he was good-looking. I laughed. Really? I don't remember. Maybe all good-looking guys look similar. Through the steaming mist of the boiling coffee, I saw the scene when I first met Adrian. He was dressed in a black suit, looking serious, but had a face that could charm countless people, like an ice sculpture. Every time he came, he would order an iced Americano. I always liked such an aloof and charming person and secretly made up my mind to win his heart. That accidental encounter was deliberately created by me. Looking at the dazzling ring on my hand, a successful smile curved my lips. Goal achieved.